and I don't know obviously what cases you worked on, but being a Black woman, being an individual with a conscience in that type of arena, how do you manage your feelings personal toward certain things, events, and constructs when you're in the lab and trying to keep within the bounds of that oath you've taken, to do good science?
Right. Yeah, it is very difficult, um, because you are human.
Right.
And I think as important as it is to remain unbiased, I think it's also important to keep our humanity as forensic scientists and remember that these are people's lives that we're dealing with and that you may be holding pieces of the worst day of someone's life in your hands. And I treat every case as if it were someone I knew. Like, how, if it were my family member, what would I want the scientist working in my case to do? You don't want it to become so mundane where it's just like, oh, day in, day out, let me just process this homicide and get it out of here. Like, you want to remember
Mm,
that this is heavy stuff. And so even though I feel the feelings and I ensure my, being impartial and keep my unbiased approach, I don't punish myself for feeling the feelings because it's a reminder that I'm still human and that I'm going to give this case my best effort. One thing I didn't learn about until after I left the crime lab was there is actually something that forensic scientists suffer from that has not really been talked about a lot, but it's called vicarious trauma. And
mm,
basically, what is happening is that forensic scientists, I think because we aren't generally, unless you're like a crime scene investigator, um, you're not really generally on the front line, or you're not experiencing the trauma yourself, I should say. So even crime scene investigators may feel these things. You're not experiencing the trauma itself, but because you were there and you've become a part of it, you're almost experiencing the side effects as if the trauma did happen to you. And I don't
mm,
think a lot of people even process that that was a thing. That, like, if you are like, I know for me, the cases that killed me were like the ones, like the most vulnerable victims, like kids, babies, people who were disabled, elderly. I mean, all of the cases are awful, but those were the ones where you think, God, these people probably didn't even, like, they couldn't even process mentally what was happening to them and how heartbreaking that is. And I think, now that I'm not working actively with casework anymore, I'm more so on the research side of things. And I look back on that, I can see how it did have kind of an impact on my mental health and how